So, woo! I am very excited. That was a premiere that you can catch on Zerilath Shreds, also in full screen, of a little music video that I chopped up from some ridiculous fucking kaiju battles that I stole from various movies. And one AI created thing that was I just thought like it was maybe from like one of like the Silmarillion based video games or something. No, it was AI. I was like, fuck. Right? And that was somebody's imagining of one of Tolkien's great dragons. Because if you know the Silmarillion, Smaug is probably the biggest creature on Middle Earth. But he's also the smallest dragon that was ever on Middle Earth. Smaug represents the last dragon. And it was a decline. This is kind of a reference to kind of the oversoul of the Nephilim. That's kind of what you get out of Smaug in this respect. This as for what the dragon represents in its evil context. I'm part of a temple of white dragons, which is one of 4 dragons that run the show in this realm. And we're the dragons of the north. But that one, shoot, I'm forgetting the, let me grab the name of it, because, you should watch it. Like, there's some really good audio on it as well. And unfortunately, like, I think people, let's, like me, right? If I ever said I want to make an AI video, and I'm not going to. I mean, I've done a couple of AI pictures, and I think I may be using 1 or 2. And this was like year 1 AI experimenting, fucking around. I feel more for the Butlerian Jihad side of things, but also, you want to get really mad about AI, you can't, because look at how we aren't there for each other anyway. You just had Mamdani swear in as an enemy of the individual. This guy literally is a monster. The end of the individual, right? Like, this is textbook communism, Karl Marxism. That's textbook fucking Che Guevara's attitude too. Holy shit with Che Guevara. You saw me read all these assholes. Now I'm reading these assholes because I'm gonna ease off of the hard history and stuff like that, because I want to jump back into more of the occult phase. And I think that this is perfect because it ties into what I've done with the Jewish war. And like, there was tremendous anti-Semitism from the communists and the National Socialists. That's the fucking horrid tragedy of this. Because you've got a deep problem going on, and for you to just devolve into barbarity towards the people that may or may not be somewhat like adjacently connected to it because of perhaps they've done nothing wrong with their lives, but some part of their psychology is in a book like the Talmud, which is like, the Torah is kind of like an in-between bullshit fucking story for the Talmud and the Torah, or the Old Testament, for what of the Torah was selected for canon Bible. And you have to ask yourself, who are these publishers of all these various Bibles? Because everybody tells you, like, the translation matters deeply. King James was leading a spiritual revolution of a very evil sort. Not a good liberation. And King James, fat bastard that he was, he's just, like, he's one of these guys that you can model your atypical Baron Harkonnen after. Right? So give me 1 second here. I just want to give you the name. I just want to say the name of this ridiculous AI short film, and like it's got like this. There's great sound effects, and there's a voiceover, I believe, of the dragon, and I was too busy trying to fucking like watch it while listening to my song to actually listen to it. So I actually have to go back and actually watch the damn thing just for how impressive it really fucking was. Okay, where are we? We're getting there. Let's see. See, this is in the right area because this is where I got all my. I'm looking at my history right now, and here's where I was looking at all the kaiju, all fucking. This thing took me like 8-9 hours to do. What a marathon. No, almost there. Come on. No. It's way back. I was holding on to it early. Like, I was sitting there, I was thinking about, what the fuck do I call this song? Once I finally got around to kind of, looking at the song and, taking the riff track file and say, like, okay, what do I actually want to call this? Because I want to make a video, and I haven't figured out what I want to make it yet, and I'm just listening, like, Tremors of the Underking. It's like, ooh, right? So this is my titling process, right? Because I felt like it had certain. Okay, so what's a tremor of the what out there in coolness that has inspired me from fucking media that I can find on YouTube, that I can steal for fair use. Excuse me. And so I was just like, okay, let me try some Godzilla. And admittedly, I've only watched, like, the first Godzilla movie, which I really liked. And then it got really hard for me to go catch as many movies. It was always really hard. Listen, I've always been at a fucking budget. I look at people, it's, oh, you haven't seen this movie? You haven't seen that movie? It's just like, yeah, no, I haven't. I don't have a lot of time for piracy, and I don't make a lot of time for every movie, even though I'm totally like a movie esoteric occultist buff like that. I also want to read books and study and get serious, and I don't want to play all fucking day. I don't want to play all day. I'm not. Yeah, I mean, no, I do, but because the work is play. That right? It's when the work is play. It's just like I find that's why I enjoy being in shape because I enjoy just a process of doing something while I'm out on a job site, because it can have a semi playfulness just because I can almost make a game out of the rules that I'm looking for to do the thing. What has happened? Why can't I find this darn fucking... How did I miss it? Clover... I would have seen the name. No. Communicating, escape the tsunami, in the heart of the sea. There's a lot of things I tried. There was a Moby Dick movie that didn't have... Like, Yeah, I needed the right shots. A lot of these fucking movies, like, they give you, like, the shots are either way too jittery to fucking fill you with all the awe that you're looking for, um, or they're from peculiar angles, um, because it's like the guy's point of view, right? Like the Godzilla film, there's a lot of shit I didn't want to put in there, which was kind of cool, but I felt like it wasn't good for the song to show the pan cut through the background thing. Like, I wanted to fucking have a god eye camera fucking watching two kaiju kill each other at uncomfortable fucking distances from your perception of reality. And that's what I got out of it. And then I admittedly had to fill some of it in with more battle sequence from Dune than I wanted, because Dune did not deliver the sandworms like with Villeneuve the way that Lynch did. Lynch fucking delivered on the fucking sandworm screen time, right? Which the sandworm's presence mattered a heck of a lot more. I think I felt something more emotionally to the Lynch sandworms, because I think that, like you get the sense of Shai Hulud as a god from the people in Villeneuve, which is good because of this interesting way of which he brought back this pagan heart, right? It's just like, if Middle Easterners are supposed to be pagan, they're supposed to be like the Fremen in all honesty, right? But, this is, but there's a lot of grift going on, right? Because this is Lawrence of Arabia. This is also Hollywood with, the underclass brown person is always benevolent because here they are. They can't, why? How could they possibly be evil people? All they've got are sticks and mud. Nobody ever did evil with sticks and stones. What, are you crazy? You need guns to be evil. These people have no guns. We better give them guns to fight the people with guns. Because they've proven they're not evil, and people are always the same. Right? This is Hollywood with their dreamscape, and this has infected the mind of the people. Right? And like I've always said, anarchy is something that I strive for, but what the fuck we gotta do now, unfortunately, involves the existence of the state where it fucking needs to be. Because I don't think that the rhetoric of how evil the state is for just existing as a thing is going to cut it. It is it's the deepest fucking truth, but it's the deepest truth. And you do not appreciate how hard they will have to dig to get to how deep you got. Right? People are not having the fucking experience of the 90s anymore. Our relationship with the state is not the same in spirit. It may be the same in paper, but it's not the same in fucking spirit anymore. It's changing of the time, and the nature of the slavery is such where other people are going to feel more free because their behavioral modus operandi is not a problem for the state. How much behavioral modus operandi outside of natural law is being violated right now? In America, most people don't have to fucking have one iota of intersectional relationship with a state fucking person for fucking months. Whatever. If ever. Maybe if I get a fucking moving violation and I have to appear in court, that's something. The occasional effing thing. It's pretty anarchist, that manner. It's very, in actuality, libertarian in that manner, right? I don't feel the monster of the state on my back, on my soul, on the, I did in 2020. Holy shit, the whole fucking octopus was trying to rip my fucking heart out. My God, I can't believe I can't find... It was under... If I hit dragon... Maybe my search history is just fucking more weird than I think it is. Ah, yes. Onkalegan the Black. The final terror of Morgoth. Right? Onkalag the Black. And I don't even know if Onkalag is the biggest. He might be. He might be. I know that there's like 5 or 6 different dragons, and all of them get a little bit bigger. They're like Russian nesting dolls. They just get bigger. Excuse me. In fact, let me take a look. We're gonna get to this thing. Might as well warm up. And who the fuck's gonna be here, right? Who's here? I don't see anybody in the chat room yet. Hi. Anybody? Any viewers? While I've been in my warm up, I've got 5 views. All right, guys. Thank you for being here. It's been 20 minutes, but I just want to now. I just want to know in real time. Tolkien dragon chart images. There we go. Where is Onkalag? Where is... What did I do? Hold on. All right. That looks... That's not right. Okay, this doesn't give me the picture. That is... Okay, no. Onkalag the Black is. No, he is. He is the biggest dragon. He's of ridiculous... Yeah. So, I mean, like... Smaug's a minor force of nature, right? Onkalag just... He'll... You give him, like, You give him a week and he could probably tear, like... half your continent apart. Like literally, like across, like those shots, just some of those shots. A lot of the shots I didn't show you were like, I kind of grabbed the coolest shots. So, there's not much more you would have to see from it, but you kind of want to hear everything being said. Anyway, so we're gonna read the Talmud. And just like all these other things that I read, this is a let's find out for ourselves what all the fuss is about. Right? That's what this is. This is a what's this all this fuss about. So, I have chosen the Michael L. Rodkinson translation that was found at sacredtext.com. We'll just take a little scroll through here so you get an idea of what these contents look like. Now, the file as a whole is 346 pages, but there's a lot of anecdotal stuff written in here. I think I'm going to do more of a skip over and not let the editorial notes go too crazy unless they care to explain various Jewish terms. I'm going to do my best to not worry about all the Jewish terms I don't know to the point where I cripple the experience of the read itself. But we'll see what I absolutely need to understand the gist of what they're saying. Okay. All right. Because I did take a look, and like there's a lot of using the terms in Jewish, which you have to be responsible for you understanding and taking that word and then understanding the mystery translation of it, especially as it pertains to whatever sect is invoking it. All right. We got these things called explanatory remarks. Just letting it coast on the screen for you to read. I'm not going to read all this, but we're going to scroll down through it. It's 1901 over here. All right, then we got the contents here again. Let's see, everything fits on screen, right? Hold on. Yeah, everything should fit on screen. Great. So yeah, there's a lot of filler between some of these chapters, and that's how you'll see how it goes. All right. Like, you see 91 to 107, then it goes 107 to 127, right? There's a little extra pages of editorial notes between 6 and 7, right? All right. It says here that he has reached the 13th volume of his task, covering 21 tracks of this great work. So I'm assuming that this 13th task is is the whole of what this is out of 21. Is that more of the Talmud, or more of things within Judaism? The great pride of the fact that this is the second edition translation, he believes, is the opening of the bringing of light of the book, so withheld from the gaze of the curious and even learned, should have attracted more attention and deserves greater consideration. Okay. All right. All right, we're almost to the beginning now. Nice. Let me go. I'm going pretty fast here, so you guys can read and see everything. You know, I will also have 2 Dune books now that I have read in this time, so it may that what I know from those books may also help in how I understand this. All right. All right, we're almost to... This is where we're going to start. Let me just double check how long this first bit goes. All right, Introduction to Tract Sabbath. All right, yeah, we're going to read all this. And see how fast I read it, because I kind of want to take a break by about 4 minutes from now. Brief general introduction to the Babylonian Talmud. On this appearance... Hold on a sec. Okay. On this, the appearance of our latest literary undertaking, we deem a few explanatory remarks necessary. The brief outline of the origin of the Talmud that follows may suggest the thought that we have departed from the usual manner of dealing with the questions here discussed. The more so since we have, for the sake of brevity, refrained from citing the authorities on which our statements are based. We wish, therefore, to declare here that we do not venture to make a single statement without the support of authorities well known in Hebrew literature. Our method is to select such views as seem to us the best authenticated in the historical progress of Judaism. As we have taken our choice from the numerous works on our subject, the student is entitled to adopt or to reject the views that we represent. Most of the Mishnayot date from a very early period and originated with the students of the Jewish academics, which existed since the days of Jehoshaphat, king of Judah, and then a chronicle citation here. All right, so the rabbinical students of ancient times noted the essence of the academical teachings in brief form. I ain't gonna make it to 33, but anyway, I just talk too much, and that's life. All right, and as a rule, in the idiom in which it was spoken to them, so that they could afterward easily commit it to memory. They have sometimes, however, added comments and extensive explanations in the form of notes, so that the mass of their learnage embraced in course of time, according to some authorities, as many as 600 divisions. The source of the Mishnayot was the customs and regulations practiced by the authorities in their administration of religious and civil affairs, such as the Sabbath, prayers, cleanliness, considered actually godliness, permitted and forbidden foods, and controversies arising concerning slavery. Indebtedness and corporal punishment are subjects of academic discussion, conducts with the aim of perfecting them into national statutes, enforceable in all Jewish communities alike. Yeah. That's why people are anti-Zionist. That particular issue right there. That's why we're reading this. In course of time, however, when those Mishnayot were noted down from earlier existing copies, many additions were made. Finally, Rabbi Yehuda, the prince, generally called Rabbi, concluded to collect all the Mishnayot in his college for proper arrangement. From these, he selected 6 divisions, called according to the subject they deal with the seeds, feasts, women, damages, sacrifices, and purifications, and he proclaimed them holy for all Israel. Of the Mishnayot so treated by Rabbi, some were left entirely intact and were reproduced in their original form. To others, he parenthetically added brief comments of his own, and there are still others that he claimed in form completely, because already in his day old customs had changed and taken new forms. Okay, so the Mishnayot, I find it crazy that it's got Yoth in there, because that's a very Lovecraftian kind of Yoth, like Yog Sothoth, right? It's you can name a Lovecraftian thing with a Yoth. Obviously, it's kind of their word for the collection of scrolls that make up the Talmud, is kind of what that sounds like to me. I'm going to punch it into DuckDuckGo and see what they say. The Mishnah, or the Mishnah, is the first written collection of the Jewish oral tradition that are known as the Oral Torah. Ah, okay. So, the Mishnayot is not the Talmud, but the Talmud is derivative of the Mishnayot. Already, we have found... Everybody talks about the Talmud. Why does nobody talk about the Mishnayot? What is the Mishnayot? See, that's different. Written primarily in Mishnaic Hebrew, but also partly in Jewish Aramaic. The Mishnah is split up into 6 Sederim. Seder Zerim, Seder Moed, Seder Nashim, Seder Nezikin, Seder Kodashim, and Seder Teheros. Select a Meseshta below to start learning. Okay, all right. Hang on. Just real quick. See, this is like, why don't people mention, like, why is the Mishnah, like, is the Mishnah something to be discredited, or is it something to be kept? Right? It's kind of a crime, right? Because the Mishnayot, wouldn't this also be where the Torah comes from? The Torah and the Talmud come out of this Mishnayot. So the history of the Mishnayot is what underscores the Talmud, the Babylonian Talmud. I found something, a collection of the Mishnayot from the Judaica Press. It's 560 fucking pages. Yeah, wild. Order Zerim, right? Now, is this in Hebrew or in English? Oh, no. It looks like, well, it's got English publication notes. Oh. Use your free account to borrow this book and gain access to all the... Oh, okay. All right. I would have to download it to get the whole... But I don't want to download it right now. All right. Anyway, that's cool. That's good to know. All right. So that's the Mishnayot. So here we are. We've learned something by 7:37. And I haven't even gotten into the book yet. Okay. Such of them as he desired to make final and indisputable national laws, he incorporated into the Mishnah without mentioning the names of their authors, where, however, he could formulate no definite answer himself, or where they were well known to the public. He gave full information of their authors, as well as their names to those opposed to their conclusions without any decision on his part. In still others he mentioned no names, but contented himself with saying, Aherem, anonymous teachers say, not wishing to specify their authority for certain reasons. Rabbi did not seek the compliance and agreement of all his contemporaries in his arrangement of the Mishnah, and many differed from his conclusions and even arranged Mishnayot in accordance with their own views. Being, however, a man of great prominence, including prominence, influence, and wealth, Rabbi succeeded in quelling opposition and in making his conclusions as acceptable as the Mosaic law itself, and his great pupils, seeing that his intentions were only to prevent dissension and his only aim, the public weal, supported him nobly until his teachings were accepted as the law of the nation. So, right here, right, it's just like, it's not God's law. It's a guy's law. It's a guy's law. And here it is in historic record, right? And people think that they've got some derivative of the reality of it all. People want to, argue for all sorts of things. I mean, maybe the Mishnayot has the good stuff in it. The real stuff. Like, maybe you find the actual, natural pagan whomevers. Was it always L? Or did somebody translate something that wasn't L as L? Because somebody said, oh yeah, name for God. And then the guy's like, yeah, name for God. Okay, so, L. All right, let me see here. All right. Many Mishnayot were rejected and destroyed by Rabbi, but not being in possession of all those he wished to destroy, he went in search of them to colleges outside of his jurisdiction. There, however, he met with great opposition. Some of the Mishnayot were hidden beyond his reach. Others were secretly preserved and arranged within the very limits of his domain and promptly brought to light after his death. But rabbis' pupils did not dignify them with the name Mishneh, implying next to Mosaic law, but called them Toseftoth. Toseftoth. You've got Seth, as in Sephiroth in there, and you've got Toth in there. All right, there we go. Meaning additions of a later period. That's interesting. Bear with me a minute. I think I have to take this break. Okay, sorry about that. Oh my gosh. I heard some smashy sounding noises, some hard hitting noises upstairs. And I said to myself, you know what, I'm going to get carried away and not take a break because I think I'm going to hit an arrival point and then I'm not. And I'm just going to take a break now because whether I like it or not, I've been talking for 45 minutes straight. Anyway, I ran with some obscura for that break. So anyway, the Toseftoth, meaning additions of a later period, or merely additional, not principal matter. Some of them were also named Borethoth, outsiders. Interesting. Secondary, not academical matter. They spread, however, very rapidly after Rabbi's death, and to such an extent as to threaten the Mishnayot of Rabbi with entire extinction. Such would actually have been the result had not the pupils of Rabbi organized again colleges whose aim was to perpetuate the Mishnayot of Rabbi, which they also accomplished. Colleges of the character were those of Rab and Samuel in Babylon, and Rabbi Yanai and Rabbi Yohanan in Palestine. These colleges made strenuous efforts to explain and harmonize the Mishnayot of Rabbi with the teachings of Borethoth, generally regarded as those of Rabbi Chaya and Rabbi Oshia, who were greatly admired by the public. At times, the Mishnah of... Now, by the way, guys, you see this? This is literally the stuff that all these fucking... all these Gentiles that want to be Goyim are fucking arguing are fucking absolute foundational fucking principles is just agreeing with the arguments of these people. These are the names of the people that your Zionist fucking peers are fucking letting dictate their fucking ontology. That's why this is important. All right. Rabbi was abbreviated and replenished with the text of the Boretha. And my point is, this here is explaining that at Judaism's most innocent argument, which is, believe me, not even close to an accurate argument for Jewish diaspora when you look at history, but for the good souls that didn't fall into Thoth's trap, okay, or at least are not in, I don't know, like, I don't know if, I'm not trying to be even fucking bloodline, fucking, like, I don't know if you can be bloodline and be the good guy, but then again, I am a fucking Templar descendant, so what the fuck does that say about me, right? So, obviously you can, unless you want to start hating me now because you needed to crusade against the Crusader, who is also against the Crusades because we should have had nothing to do with it. But anyway, where were we at? Okay, who were greatly admired by the public. At times, the point is nothing was settled. They were still fucking figuring it out. But they also had an agenda of building government on top of principles being laid out from their oral tradition. And I guess it's about, like, okay, here's our oral countenance of the law. I don't think you have to put in writing moral law. I don't think you have to. Not as words you look at or whatever, but it's more like, you see what is written here? That is a reminder of an entire fucking understanding, innerstanding in my heart, what is written there. forget what it says. I'm going to tell you what that means to me. And then you speak. And to me, that's indicative of interpreting a law. Right? But having ways of wisdoms and rights and wrongs and absolute lessons of moral character, I mean, that's fine, right? You know, just like we lean into the Eddas, the sagas, and everything else. But this is the difference between paganism and religion here. These are the people trying to take their pagan way, and they wanted to get ahead of the game in letting Thoth put it in writing. Or explained with an opposing opinion so as to harmonize it with the latter or suit the new conditions and consequent changes of the custom that originally caused the conclusion of the Mishnah, where, however, they found no other way to suit their purpose. They inserted a new Mishnah of their own composition into the text of Rabbi. The teachers mentioned in the Mishnah of Rabbi or in the Borethoth and Tosefta were called Tanaim, or singular Tana, right? This is the Jewish version of a Council of Nicaea, putting the Bible together, right? Literally, it's just the Jews doing the Council of Nicaea to make their books the way the pagans made the Council of Nicaea to rip off the books that they made with their gathering that is being discussed in this foreword. Isn't that hysterical? We're called the Tanaim, or the singular Tana, signifying instructor, professor, the teachings of the colleges, covering a period of some centuries, which also found adherence and became the traditional law, were called Gemara, signifying conclusion. That's funny, because there's the kaiju called Gamera, who is, I think he's the giant turtle, and he's like a good guy. Gamera was kind of like Godzilla was like for the older kids, and Gamera was like for the little kids. I think Gamera had like the cheesy theme song. I think Gamera episodes were a big part of early Mystery Science Theater 3000 because they were bad, but they were campy, so they were great. They were great bad, right? So, if you're being trolled by Mystery Science Theater 3000, it means that you're still loved as a legacy, right? Because when you think about it, that period of time was just a wild kind of playland. Imagine, being a kid working on a set, and it's just all these dudes in big costumes, and you feel like a big person because you're hanging out in the miniaturized city where the two kaiju were going to fight, and and there's all sorts of cool stuff everywhere, right? And all sorts of people having fun and all that, and it's great, and it's very innocent, right? It's a form of magic being made, illusionary magic for entertainment, but at the same time, that can become your Matrix. Like the World of Warcraft. The Matrix was the World of Warcraft. I remember being into EverQuest and and online gaming and enjoyed it for a time even as a young adult that should not have been doing those things. I really fucked myself up here, okay? And then to watch my peers who they're fortunate enough to be more selfless in their attitudes and say like, look, I'd like to have all these things, but I got to do what I got to do for the job, right? And so they they got that. And then, they might be personally doing something that they don't tell anybody about, which is maybe their thing and that they do better. That's important and useful and thinking about how they're going to handle the future. Or are they just pleasing the job and expecting security from the job because you should be all set with the way your situation is and your value to the company and the economy and the X, Y, and Z. And my point is that you just have no problem putting your downtime when you don't need to please your wife into your toys, into your fantasy world that's been constructed for you. And so people spent a unsocial amount of time on like World of Warcraft and shit like that. And so half the reason why the world's been emptier is because most people just want to do that. Most of my friends that I used to play Magic the Gathering with, I start talking to them again, and they only play the online version of Magic. They don't buy physical cards anymore. And to me, I don't want to play video games. I enjoy sitting at the table and the experience of that. The only reason why we're doing Zoom fucking situations is because, we live far away from each other. And yeah, using your physical cards to play on Zoom or something can be very, very irritating. So I wouldn't blame people that just don't play Magic without it being refereed by an algorithm. That's fair enough, because the way I play Magic is like, I'm not a fucking professional player. It's just like, I play a card, I didn't fucking read it all the way through. I just want to fucking be high, hear a podcast, and wait for my friend to figure out what the fuck he's gonna do. And the only reason why the podcast is on is because, it's just, we don't need to talk so much. We have an understanding because we talk all the time, and he watches my channel and whatnot, and he's kind of a quiet guy in the first place, but, he's, but he's cool, though. Like, he listens to Passio and shit. He's a good dude. One of us. He's one of us, okay? Anyway, they interpreted, where the hell was I? The Amoraim interpreters. They interpreted to the public difficult passages in the Mishnah. Being classified as interpreters only, they had no authority to deviate from the spirit of the Mishnah, unless supported by another Tana opposing the Mishnah, in which case they could follow the opinion of the Tana with whom they agreed. Okay, so this is here, that's baked into the psychic debate culture, argument culture with Jews, right? People get very angry at the Jews because it doesn't matter whether they're telling the truth or not. They have a superior command of how talking to people works and the art of persuasion and all these things. And it's horrifying because of the amount of abuse that comes with that, because probably there's deep truth to be de-occulted in the Mishnah. I don't know, like, the question is the Mishnah all or partially corrupted by the incursion? You see? Like, this gets very microscopic. It has to be microscopic, because either you are proving that it's not the Jews, or you're just figuring out what fucking Jews you're talking about. because this is to be taken seriously, with care, with love, with responsibility. And people, you know, we got a lot of people that don't deserve to be, you know, to have to fucking do their thing in the public media stream and be afraid of the taboo of it tearing them down. Right? So, contributing to the culture of making it acceptable to talk about this thing destroys more of their excuses. You want to get somewhere with the quote Jews without understanding the Jews better? Well, then you are just an anti-Semite. If you don't care about them, I care about them, so I am reading, because I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt that they are human. I'm not a Bene Gesserit. I assume that they're human. But I do suspect that many are animals. The Bene Gesserit have it the other way around. They assume that you're an animal, but they suspect that you are a man. Right? I accept that you are human, but I suspect there are animals among you. This is a game we all know. It's called Werewolf. In that game, everybody plays a role in the village, and one person secretly knows that they are the werewolf. And then I think there's one other guy who secretly knows that he's like the hunter or something like that. And then you play this little game that corners the werewolf and brings the hunter to him, or something like that. I played the game only once because, you know, I thought when I had first heard of it that it was a game where the werewolf gets to act like a werewolf, and I said, oh, that'll be fun, and I'm going to volunteer to be the werewolf. But no, it's not like that. You act like a guy, and it's just kind of a fun. The point is, it's kind of like a whodunit game. You know, it's a Murder on the Orient Express kind of thing, right? So we're playing Murder on the Orient Express with the Jews. Okay, so they interpreted to the public the difficult passages in the Mishnah, being classified as interpreters. Okay, the Tana, right, the Mishnah, okay, agreed. The Rabbina Ashi, okay. Rabbina and Ar-Ashi, who lived at the end of the 5th century, 3rd century of Amoraim, began to arrange the Gemara, but without success, and commenced a second time to arrange it. Unfortunately, they died before accomplishing their task. And the Gemara had to undergo the chances of transmission from hand to hand until the appearance upon the scene of Rabbana Jose, or Jose. Is this Jose? We have a Jose. Is this before? How far back does this go? How far back does this go? Was Spanish language a big, like, were there rabbis from Spain at this time speaking Hispaniola? Or is this another, like Joe's, like Joseph? Well, let's find out. I mean, I think Jose is Joseph in Spanish anyway. President of the last Saburaic college in Pumbeditha, who foresaw that his college was destined to be the last, owing to the growing persecution of the Jews from the days of Fairuz. He also feared that the Amoraic manuscripts would be lost in the coming dark days of days or materially altered. So be summoned all his contemporary associates and hastily closed up the Talmud, prohibiting any further additions. This enforced haste caused not only an improper arrangement and many numerous repetitions and additions, but also led to the Talmudizing of articles directly traceable to bitter and relentless opponents of the Talmud. I see. I might want to try some of those out. No. Because what does it mean that you are an enemy of the Talmud? I mean, you're not doing anybody any justice if you're fucking with a proper translation, obviously. I mean, that's not even hating the Talmud. That's just hating history. You hate history if you're doing that. It's one thing to ruin, like, a guy who's alive, who you know, who you're, who you hate, or whatever. Like, that's slightly different. But to go and alter fucking history of people that go back into antiquity, that's a hatred of history. That's what that is. So, foresaw his college was destined to be the last owing to the growing persecution of the Jews from the days of Fairuz. Yes, they like to wear their welcome thin. He also feared that the Amoraic manuscript would be lost in the coming dark days or materially altered, so he summoned all his contemporary associates and hastily closed up the Talmud, prohibiting any further additions. This enforced haste caused not only an improper arrangement and many numerous repetitions and additions, but also led to the Talmudizing of the articles, directly traceable to bitter and relentless opponents of the Talmud. The time Rabban Ahoz conducted his college only 17 years, being too short for a proper and critical review of each and every subject. Many theories were surreptitiously added by its enemies, with the purpose of making it detestable to its adherents. Of such character is the expression that of our Ashi is a fabrication which is repeated numerous times throughout the Talmud, and which could by no means have originated with the Amoraim, which as a rule were very guarded in their expression and would never have dreamed of applying it or similar expression to such Talmudical authorities as Ar Ashai and Mar, his son, much less to the patriarchs of the prophets. This closing of the Talmud did not, however, prevent the importation of foreign matter into it in many such brave as much his son, patriarch. This closing of the Talmud did, however, prevent the importance of foreign matter into it, and many such have crept in through the agency of the Rabbanan Saburai and Gaonim of every later generation. So the Gaonim gynocracy is here established, and the Rabbanan Saburai, the Beast Rabban from Dune, and Saburai sounds like samurai, which is interesting. Sounds also like Subaru, which, did they have lesbians in the Saburai? But anyway, the chief aim of the authors of the Gemara being to perpetuate the Mishnah as the sole source of the Jewish religious and civil code after the Mosaic laws themselves. They not only directed all their energy to the discussion and perfecting of its deductions, but treated its very words and letters as inspired and as holy as the Bible itself, forming at times conclusions from superfluous word or letter. Okay, so whoever was working with this stuff at that point was, so according to him, saying biblical, so the Bible would have been written, so This would have been post-Council of Nicaea. Oftentimes, when they found the Mishnah differing with an established custom in their days, they resorted to subtle inquiry and minute discussion until they succeeded in establishing harmony between the differing points. All these efforts were directed to refute and disprove the assertions of the different sects who opposed the oral law and who were inclined to adhere to the written law solely. Therefore, the rabbis of Gemara said Minilin, where from its source, or Maino Han Mili, which means whence is all this deducted, in the treatment of a subtext, of a subject not plainly specified in the Bible, and also the exclamatory remark Pashita. It is self-evident as regards subjects plainly enumerated in the scriptures, which do not admit of any other interpretation of the same origin, is the question, Lemai Hilketha. For what purpose has the halakha stated, with reference to an obsolete custom? So much for the general history of the Talmud. Okay. We're going to get into this after the next break. There we go. Now, before I start the break, I have to ask myself, what do I want to play? Sure. We're going to do God Dethroned. Annihilation Crusade. we go. That was a good song. All right. Anyway, welcome back. Here we go. Shall we rock and roll? Introduction to Tract Sabbath. With this tract, we commence the translation of the section of the Talmud called Moed, Festivals, containing the following tracts: Sabbath, Erubin, Rosh Hashanah, Yuma, Shakarim, Sukkah, Megillah, Teneth, Pesakim, Vetza, Hagigah, Mod Katan. All these tracts are entirely devoted to precepts pertaining to the observance of the festivals and Sabbaths, such as the performance of the different ritual ceremonies on feast days, the manner of sanctifying the Sabbath, and the ordinance relating to mourning for the dead, both on Sabbath and weekdays. The commandments on which these precepts are founded, or from which they are derived, are contained in various portions of the Pentateuch. The fourth commandment of the Decalogue enacts from Exodus and Deuteronomy, "The seventh day shall ye keep holy." In various other parts of the Pentateuch, the due observance of the Sabbath is repeatedly ordained, in some instances merely mentioning the day as one to be kept inviolate and holy. Now, isn't it interesting that we're seeing a citation for Exodus and Deuteronomy for this, but not Genesis? Interesting. Why wouldn't you, have aspects of such a creation myth? Unless, of course, that creation myth is not as central to the people that eventually put together most of these Talmuds, or at least this Talmud. In various other parts of the Pentateuch, the due observance of the Sabbath is repeatedly ordained, in some instances merely mentioning the day as one to be kept inviolate and holy, and in others employing greater emphasis, referring to the history of creation and establishing the observance as a sign of the covenant between the Lord and Israel. Such texts are Exodus 12, Exodus is 12, 15, 13 through 17, 21, 1 through 3, then Leviticus 29 and 32, Numbers 9, etc. While the general principle is thus frequently inculcated, its special application, however, and specific enactments as to what constitutes a violation of the Sabbath are nowhere fully carried out in the Pentateuch, and thus but few texts of the Scripture serve as a direct basis for the minute and numerous enactments of rabbinical law. The Mishnah enumerates 39 abhoth, or principal acts. Interesting. Kind of sounds like abhorrent. Principal acts of labor, the performance of any one of which constitutes a violation of the Sabbath. Okay, so there are 39, effectively there are 39 Sabbath laws. That's what the abhoth are. They are the special laws for the Sabbath day, which probably gets into where, imagine, just, you gotta remember, man, we look at this ritual thing, people kind of, conduct their thing, okay, let me get in the house before sunset, yada, yada, yada. But, dude, it's so effing, it's like, what's going on so fucking spiritually, right? There's a, what the, I can't, I don't even know if I am or am not fucking breaking a Sabbath, you know, per se, right? I mean, like, I work on Saturdays. Sabbath is Saturday in this it should be Saturday in this context. I will assume it's Saturday in this context. Right? So, does that make me bad? Why does it not trouble me one iota? Right? You know, and I mean, there's this, you know, simple answer of how you're raised and all that. And like, you know, because, you know, these people, they get born into this world and they know the world by this law, right? And it's almost like a torturous way of escaping the Matrix. It gets very repressive because you've got your interpretation of God's fucking law shelling up your entire ontological universe. And then you're trying to have and you've got old pagan ways that go back to blood sacrifice and fertility ritual practices that are all mixed in there. Some of this shit going back to Hyperborean times. Right? Which is why the taboo of the Bach Saga is so important. Whether these fucking bloodlines in question were ever benevolent before or not. Right? Because I have to intersect the Bach Saga with several different fucking things. Because at the end of the day, the Bach Saga does call itself the Wainamoinen mythology. And it needs to bend to things because it's not trying to be like the fucking Bible in which everything, you know, the fascist bends the world to their words. The vernacular wars is what cancel culture has been about. The fact that you weren't allowed to have your own space because emotionally, as a person whom it doesn't really fucking matter whether you're fucking racist or not, but you're not allowed to say kike, you're not allowed to say nigger or faggot. You get fucking like everybody gets everybody fucking mad. Or like, do white people just never get you mad except when they use mean words at you? Or it's a cop who is automatically white even though it's a black officer doing the abuse? This is how our psyches are consistently being fucked with divisions of authority, right? One is not healthy because its literalism is keeping it tied to some dark shit that it doesn't understand itself, except for a certain rabbinical order that understands it themselves. In a manner that'll drive you fucking mad, like Lovecraft told you it would. Let's just say you don't want to fucking know what kind of offerings to God they're giving them. But you are going to want to wish justice hunters did know. And I am a justice hunter. Every other kind of work becomes illegal only if it can be classified under one of any of these principal acts of labor. Thus, for instance, under the principal act of plowing, every analogous kind of work such as digging, delving, weeding, dunging, etc., must be classified. In addition to these, 39 principles, acts, and their accessories and derivatives, there are other acts which are especially prohibited by the rabbinical laws as tending to violate the Sabbath rest, the Shavuot. The reason why law enforcement gets a bad rap is when you put your Judaic, your Abrahamic flavor on the spirit of the law, which is what they all fucking do. It teaches you to be a goddamn fucking police officer in your heart. And that's what they're teaching these people. And that's why a cold-blooded killer will think nothing of kirking you. Anyway, back to the dunging. In addition to these 39 principles, so for the violation itself, various degrees of culpability are established and various degrees of punishments awarded. In order to do that, you have to have leverage, which is where you lean into your community. This is the Essenes. This is how the Essenes kept order within their initiates. All these subjects relating, and probably the same thing they fucking did in an inverted manner for the Zealots, because they're all Zadokites. Okay? All these subjects relating to the due observance of the Sabbath and pointing out its violation in every possible way form the contents of the treatise Sabbath. In order properly to understand the Mishnah and to avoid tedious repetition, it is necessary to commence with the explanation of certain general principles and technical expressions predominating in the text. Wherever throughout the Mishnah the expression guilty, culpable, hayab, or free, patur, is used, the meaning of the former, guilty, is that the transgressor acting unintentionally must bring the sin offering prescribed in the law. Of the second expression, free, that the accused is absolved from punishment. If through the performance of an unprohibited act some other prohibited occupation is inadvertently entered upon, it constitutes no offense, providing the latter is not done intentionally, nor the law occupation entered upon with the covert purpose of making it serve as a subterfuge to do that which is prohibited. In the degrees of violation, the nature of the occupation must be considered, as various kinds of labor may be required to perform and complete one act, and thus the offender may become amenable to several penalties. On the other hand, the rule is laid down that such occupations as only destroy, but do not serve as an end in view, do not involve culpability in the rigorous sense of the word. Not yet does work which is but imperfectly or incompletely performed involve culpability. The prohibition to carry or convey any object from one place to another, which is chapter 1.1 of this treatise, is called the Yetziath, the Ha-Shabbath, which means transfer on the Sabbath, and forms the 39 of the principal acts of labor, requires particular attention and explanation from the complexity of cases to which it gives rise. All space was by the Tanaim divided into 4 distinct kinds of premises explained in the Gemara of this chapter. Now, let me explain something, right? So, this is a weekly ritual law, right? You've taken a ritual, you've taken a magical ceremony, and you've forced a people to perform this ritual by law because you believe it keeps you on the righteous path. It keeps you in a causal loop until you fucking die. That's what it fucking does. Keeps you consumed in the Ouroboros. I have done my own personal commitment to a daily ritual routine that I do thrice a day. And it is perfect for my needs, and I always am pushing to expand and develop it. All right. Where was I? Forms of 39 principles. All space was by the Tanaim, divided into 4 distinct kinds of premises. Explained in the Gemara of this chapter. When in the next of the Mishnah, the question is about carrying and conveying from one place to another, it does not apply to the free place, as that is subject to no jurisdiction. Moreover, the open air above private property has no legal limitations, whereas that over public property or unclaimed ground, the Kermelith, only belongs thereto to the height of 10 spans. See explanation of the Gemara. The carrying or conveying from one kind of premise to another does not constitute a complete or perfect act unless the same person who takes a thing from the place it occupies deposits it in another place. The tracts Sabbath and Erhubin will contain the laws for the observance of rest on Sabbath, and these laws can be divided into 2 separate parts. Firstly, the part prohibiting the labor on the Sabbath day, at the same time defining what is to be termed labor and what does not constitute an act of labor. And secondly, the part ordaining how the day is to be sanctified and distinguished from a weekday in the manner of eating, drinking, dress, lighting of candles in honor of the Sabbath, and incidentally the lighting of candles in honor of the festival of Hanukkah, the Maccabees. It has been proven that the 7th day kept holy by the Jews was also in ancient times the general day of rest among other nations. Interesting. Okay. And was usually spent by the people of those days in much the same way as it is spent now. Wherever local laws do not restrict buying and selling, namely in the forenoon prayer, were recited and necessitated life for the day were bought, while the afternoon was devoted to pleasure-seeking, merrymaking, visiting, and so forth. That sounds like the American fucking life anyway. Like, straight up, that's just how people live their lives without Talmuds and Torahs. By and large. 5 to 6 day work weeks. There ain't nothing wrong with a 3 or 4 day work week if you know what the fuck you're doing. Right? And that's as far as, as far as what I would say would be employment kind of work, right? Like, it's the split. It's just like, right now, I'm not working. I am working, though, because this is my work. I don't get paid for this work, though. I need to get paid because I would like to exist in the world. And the world operates on money. And money does not come my way from this. But this is still work, so I'm working. I mean, the problem is that I enjoy my work so much. And that I got... It's just like... it's the backbreaking, right? It's just like, who wants to work 6 days a fucking week for 12-hour shifts for the rest of your fucking life? And I think that these people probably would have a group among them that would make people live that way. Because, you know, I tried to take a couple of kinds of jobs, landscaping oriented jobs, or whatever, the kind of jobs that migrants do and stuff like that. And I'm also looking at it and I'm just like, hold on a second, you want me to work 6 days a week? You want me to do 10, 12-hour shifts a day? What? Like, I care too much about having time for this, having time for music to do that much. Because what you heard at the beginning of this show from my work, that is, I'm not just happier with how my overall performance was, but when, like, those solos were not as sloppy as many of my older solos. They you know, like, I'm still working on it with the soloing, and I'm still working on it on a few of the more determinative change-ups and kind of riffage diversity that I want to run through, right? But, you know, I gotta go with what is, with what's coming through the stream of consciousness. You know, just like my reactions to this and anytime I'm freeballing anywhere. Excuse me. The Jews living prior to the time of Ezra and Nehemiah, and even during the latter's regime, were wont to spend, would want to spend the Sabbath in the same manner as their pagan neighbors. Okay, there we go. All right. It was this fact that caused the sages of Nehemiah's time to fear that should the Jews, who were always in the minority as compared with other nations, continue with methods of keeping the Sabbath and join in the merrymaking and pleasure of their neighbors, mingling freely with their sons and daughters, assimilating was almost inevitable, especially as the Jewish race was scattered over all the known world and was nowhere in very large numbers. Right. So literally, the whole thing was to rob you of having a life in an outside world. Right? All this is just keeping a goddamn cult together. Right? They want to have this cohesion of a thing. And, this gets into the whole principal idea of types who don't, quote, assimilate. Now, assimilation is fascism, which is why I hate the term. But if you are not adjusting to the resonant frequency, then that's just inherently discordant. Okay? This is why we have certain neighborly barriers. You know, you got people that you don't know that are that agree about the society that we live in. So the Jews come, and the Jews that live by the Talmud, they create this problem where you have to put them in a ghetto. They need to be somewhere away from the rest of everywhere else. They need to have their own pocket universe. So take this to 1920s now, Germany, and how the European forces that were against those Axis powers from the original war were, they don't like to tell you about all the stuff you definitely would not have agreed to in the manner in which they did it. To not just the economy, mind you, but it's what they replace the economy with. And that's why they don't want to tell you precisely which books were they actually burning. Now, some of them were burned because they were Jewish books that were not smutty. You know, just, oh, why'd you burn that book? Oh, it was written by a Jew. Oh, okay, good move, right? Like, I'm not saying that didn't happen. I'm not saying there wasn't ignorance. I'm not saying there wasn't evil. I'm not saying any of those things. But you got to understand that there's a lot of people that live in a place that gets swept up by the forbearing of the principalities and the powers that have taken over the psyche of a place, right? And the Aryan people of Europe got eaten up by a superiority Wetiko virus, which was a projection of the Loxism that needed to manipulate a scapegoatable goy to get the Zionist convention its plot of land. And they needed to transplant a whole bunch of people that are trying to dictate the lives of many, many other people that are owning this. And it's probably so fucking unnatural that the kids at a certain age, if exposed to the world enough, would subconsciously get that message, and it would really fuck them up, but in a necessary way, because that's just what happens when the real world is interfering and causing you ontological shock. Be grateful that it's just shock and not ontological fucking trauma. Doesn't have to be trauma. It just has to shake you a bit. It just has to startle you. It just has to make you leave with an important question. That's all it has to fucking do. It's up to you to have a healthy relationship with the fact that somebody's going to fucking flip the script on you. They're going to flip the script on you many times till you become like me and you just live in the fact that you know they're going to flip the script again because you're now kind of seeing past the script. The sages then devised means to keep the Jew from mingling with the Gentile and from participating in the pleasures and carousals of his neighbors. This can be seen from Nehemiah 1 through 26. In those days saw I in Judah some treading wine presses on the Sabbath, etc. In those days also saw I Jews that had married wives of Ashdod, of Ammon and of Moab, etc. Ye shall not give your daughters unto their sons, nor take their daughters unto your sons, or for yourselves. Thus we see that Nehemiah began prohibiting the traffic and carrying of burdens on the Sabbath, and ended by prohibiting intermarriage with foreign women. On the Sabbath or in general? Because I thought we were just talking about the Sabbath right here. But in general. So, foreign women, right? And I think that there's some good in honoring that. I think my capacity to love a woman interferes with my deep down primal desire to say, yeah, but only have a mother with someone within your assortment of nations. Right? But what is that assortment of nations? Because what does it mean that I'm part Italian, and is that close enough to my Franco-Germanic side? Or my English-Norman side? And there isn't a clean slice of those three. So, all right, ye shall not give daughters. Okay, so right. The Sabbath meaning is okay for drinking. Okay, if thou turn away thy foot from the Sabbath, meaning if thou keep away from drinking places, dancing houses, etc., Sabbath, and follow the customs of other nations, called the Sabbath a delight, meaning the rest on the Sabbath shall constitute thy pleasure. The holy of the Lord, honorable, and shall honor him, not doing thine own ways, nor finding thine own pleasure, nor speaking thine own words, then shalt thou delight thyself in the Lord, and I will cause thee to ride the high places of the earth, and feed thee with the heritage of Jacob thy father, for the mouth of the Lord hath spoken it. The inference is very plain. The prophet wishes to impress the Jew with the fact that the Lord will reward those with the heritage of Jacob, who have kept away from mingling with the pleasures of other nations. Read Ibid, especially verses 10, 11, and 12. Hold on one second. Okay. I'm going to take another break here. What do I want to grab? Let's see. I'm trying to pull from different things. Do I want to do... Yeah, let's do it. Where is... There's this band I just got introduced to from listening to my boy Tommy, who has a he doesn't really like considering himself a reaction channel. He's got a it's more of a, I don't know, it's more of a musing channel, right? More musing, I suppose. It gets a little bit more personal, I guess. Anyway, yeah, he found this band called Yord, and So they're kind of in that quote green metal category, where it's black metal, but it's extraordinarily like pagan and not inherently, you know, death and decay and dark. But you know, I mean, it's in there, but it's not the whole thing, right? You know, we'll go with the song that he played too, because it was a banger. All right, so this is Dima by Jord. See, isn't that righteous? Oh, that's so righteous. That's like right in the pocket of how I want some of my songs to sound. I got all these different fucking things I listen to, and sometimes I have to stop because I feel like I'm convoluting my own idea of what I want to sound like. You know, relax, and it's okay if you kind of almost sound like you're copying somebody else, because everybody sounds like they're copying somebody else on their fucking EP or first album. So I taught myself to relax about that nonsense. No, this should be down here. Well, no, that should be... Oh, what it actually should be is that this should be stretched down a little bit. There we go. Let's see how that looks. Much better. Okay. All right. After the establishment of a permanent government among the Jews, however, it was found that the exhortations of the prophets after the manner of Isaiah were of no avail. The people still continued seeking pleasures on the Sabbath. Damn! They're still free! After the manner of other nations, and were still want to enjoy pastimes of their neighbors. You know, like, maybe the Jews just know what happens when the Jews don't follow the Sabbath. And maybe the Jews are just saying, I'm sorry. It's just like, you guys don't have to. Our guys have to do it. They all do. They try to be like you guys, but they can't. They can't help it. Right? Is that the story? I don't know. That sounds pretty stupid, you know, because there's a lot of like maybe the guys that want to get away are just the kids of the crypto Jews that think that this is bullshit. And they feel it deep down inside that this is not my roots. Because how many kids of crypto Jews don't know that they're crypto Jews, depending on what fucking level of whatever this is they're talking about. After the manner of other nations, and we're still want to enjoy it. Okay, so the enforcement of the prohibition of carrying burdens was then decided upon to act as a check upon the people by defining minutely the meaning of burdens. And the prohibitions was interpreted to include not only heavy burdens, but all portable articles, such as money, trinkets, edibles, while only necessary articles of clothing and apparel were permitted to be worn. To such an extent was the matter carried that even the wearing of rings, with the exception of such as had the name of the wearer engraved upon them, was not permitted. Name of the wearer engraved, probably as a wedding ring, I would assume. In fact, everything that could be converted into money was included in the definition of burdens. Beggars were not permitted to solicit alms on the Sabbath, contrary to the customs of other nations, so as not to afford anyone an excuse for carrying money on that day. The enforcement of such a law, however, was particularly impossible. Remember, we're not even in the Talmud yet. This is all like the forward to the Talmud. A couple more pages. Then the translation of the Talmud starts down here. You saw how many pages I just scrolled through. So we're going to run today's live stream to this point. It'll be the introductory episode. And then we will go into it perhaps chapter by chapter. But as you see, like, look how short chapter 1 is, right? You know, by this point here, we're 24 pages into the book. In fact, okay, I'm sorry. So the enforcement of such laws, however, was practically impossible in the case of people who remained in their houses. And certain modifications were made. These modifications were as follows. The laws were made to apply only on public grounds, but were not valid on private grounds. So that on a private house, a person was permitted to carry whatever was necessary. Right? Like, they got to do all this. This is all like, you know how the anarchist talks about God's law and man's law? So God's law is relax on the Sabbath. Right? And they think it means isolate on the Sabbath. And in order to do the isolation without, like, these laws would not be necessary if their mythos was strong enough to fill them with the encouragement to do it. I do my 3 rituals daily because I encourage myself to do it. It's exciting to think that I am magically, tuning up my fucking, core system every fucking day to rise with pranic intention and to check in with the body with gentle yoga, and to put some energy in the right places and have some declarations and, blow thine Heimdallhorn and go off into my day. Find time before the later evening to sit still, focus in meditation, sometimes in complete silence, sometimes with music and silence. And then to work energies within the magic circle nightly. Which is a lot of fun. It's the most performative part of my day. But anyway, private grounds were also established by the institution of erubin, i.e., where a street or a public place was inhabited by Jews alone. A small amount of meal was collected from each household. From the meal, a cake was made and hung conspicuously in that locality. What if this whole fucking Palestine thing is about this shit? What if it's just like Palestinians don't want to fucking live this way? Get it? Fucking get it? And they don't tell their goy that. Except for the goyish leadership, which has no choice, because they make sure they're in the circumstances of no choice, whoever they are. Private grounds were also established by the institution. Oh, I'm sorry, I already read all that. Locality. The point where the street inhabited by Jew alone commenced and the point where it ended were joined by a piece of twine and thus defined marked. Thus, public grounds were turned into private grounds from the fact that each household contributing a share of meal made them all, in a manner, co-partner in one object. So that's kind of a communist thing right there. It's just like the Sabbath is coming, whether you know a Jew or like a Jew or not, you got to let him in and feed him. So you gotta have food in the house by Saturday, right? You got to have food for more people. So anyway, the walking of more than 2,000 ells outside of the city limits was also prohibited. So, right there, a biblical measurement that people understand, a measurement that is why we have the elbow and why we call an L an elbow, because it bends like the letter L, right? And which is making right angles usually as the letter L. And of course, it's the singular for pagan gods, and perhaps also the name of a particular pagan god. Depends on what context is most accurate in what we understand of these terms. But they're measuring it by fucking L's, not inches. You bitches like to complain about us Americans and our fucking, like, what do we call our fucking system? The royal pain in the ass or something, right? And you with your superior metric system, base 10, right? Like, think about how insufferable it must be to be measuring things biblically as your standard. It's just like, do you go to the hardware store and say, I need an L stick, please? How many L's is this square encompass? Could you think about that? All right. Let me double check something here. Okay, we're good. All right. Within the city limits, be the city ever so large, walking was permitted. If I ever see a Jew running at sunset, I'm going to be yelling, yo, 2,000 L's! 2,000 L's! Anyway, a possibility of confinement in the house on the Sabbath becoming conducive to the performance of labor was offset by the establishment of a law prohibiting all the different modes of labor used in the construction of the tabernacle. Besides all manner of agricultural labor, this again brought about the detailing of all the different modes of labor employed in the construction of the tabernacle and in agriculture, all of which is discussed in these treatises of Sabbath and Erubin. Naturally, the institution of laws carries with it provisions for the penalties attending their infractions, and these penalties were divided into three classes. First, the penalties of unintentional infractions. Secondly, for intentional infractions. Thirdly, for intentional violations where the violator had been previously forewarned of the penalty by two witnesses. The penalty for the first class of infraction was simply the sacrificing of a sin offering, which, however, involved a great many hardships, as the culprit had to bring the sin offering to the temple in Jerusalem in person, and was frequently compelled to travel quite a distance in order to do so, besides sustaining the loss of the value of the offering. For the second class, if two witnesses testified before the tribunal that the culprit had labored on the Sabbath, and the culprit admitted that he had done so intentionally, no penalty was inflicted by the tribunal, but the person was told that he would be punished by the heavenly power with the curse of Kereth, shortening his allotted time of existence on earth. No penalty was inflicted for the reason that the culprit, having made himself liable to severe punishment from superhuman sources, it served as an excuse to absolve him from human punishment. Ugh! Fucking Christ. Dear God, like, whoever fucking wants to enforce this, fuck you, man. Don't do... See, Jew, I'm on your side. You shouldn't have to fucking live like this. for just a particular day of the week, sun up, sundown? Like, I don't even think, like, I suppose the 7-day week has something to do with Saturn, but I'm pretty sure, like, you don't have to fucking torture yourself like this, dude. You know? Like, chill. Chill. Like, maybe do it once a month. Do it once a month. Can you do it once a month? Just once a month. 12 times a year. That's, try it. Try it. Anyway. For the third class, however, when the culprit openly defied the existing authority and, in spite of forewarnings, persisted in violating the law, he was considered a traitor to the government, to be sentenced to death by stoning, as was the wood gatherers, or from Numbers 32. It is upon these laws that the discussion in the treatises Sabbath and Erubin are based, and in addition to the reader will find many ethical laws, legends, and enumerations of such enjoyments as are permitted on the Sabbath day and the festivals. So Numbers 32, really? All right. You know, okay, here, I want to look up that one. I'm going to look that one up real quick. I'm going to bust open my interlinear scripture analyzer. OT. Numbers 32. He said Numbers 32? Was that it? Numbers 32. Or is that 15 verse 32? Because that's XV is 15. Let me do that. Let me do that one. Numbers, I think it's chapter 15, verse 32. I think that's what they're doing. Okay, yeah, that's what he meant. It says here, while the sons of Israel were in the wilderness, they found a man gathering together sticks on the Sabbath day. Those finding him gathering the sticks together brought him near to Moses and to Aaron and to the whole congregation. They left him under guard, for it had not been expounded what should be done to him. Yahweh said to Moses, the man shall be put to death. Yeah, death. The whole congregation is to pelt him with stones outside the camp. He's just fucking gathering sticks? Like that's the context? That can't be the whole fucking context. Let me go back a little bit. That is abhorrent. Right? Like, this is my point about fucking things. Right? Fuck these Old Testament fucking people. That's horrible. Whoever does that literally should be fucking... Yeah, something's got to be done. I'm not in the solution business of this sort. Shut up. Let me see. So if I go back to 27, if one soul sins through inadvertence, then he will bring near a year-old she-goat for a sin offering. Okay. Over the erring soul, when he sins through the inadvertence, the priest will make a proprietary for the native among the sons of Israel, amidst the law. Anyone doing this through inadvertence, soul is doing anything with high hand, the native, and the sojourner is taunting Yahweh. That soul will be cut off. Anything with a high hand from the native. Okay, hold on, miss one more. Anyone do... Okay, hold on a second. We'll make a proprietary shelter for Yahweh to make a proprietary shelter over him. It'll be then he'll. A sin through inadvertence, too. I mean, inadvertent sin... Like, seriously, the Bible drives you fucking mad. It drives you mad. Nobody in their natural state of having a great fucking day worries about these things happening at these times. And their lives do just fucking fine. And everything is in harmonic balances. The purposes of these rituals is for fucking something else. On top of the torturous madness of its incoherence. Let's move on from this fucking psychosis. Well, it's going to get worse, as you know. But that's their logic on... Think about that. It is upon these laws that the discussion in the treatises Sabbath and Erubim are based, and, in addition, the reader will find many ethical laws, legends, and enumerations of such enjoyments as are permitted on the Sabbath day and the festivals. And by the way, look, like, Moses didn't go to a goddamn burning fucking bush and ask, what do we do? He just fucking thought of what to do himself. He didn't even bother to fucking go consult a thing. Wait a minute, did I say Moses? Because this is Numbers. Why did it say wait, okay, so where is this? 32, wilderness, so, yeah, him near to Moses and to Aaron and the whole congregation. Right, so this is a story in Numbers talking about something that Moses did during the Exodus times. But is this in Exodus? Or did the guy in Numbers make it up too? Jews would be better served to be letting go of their identity with the fucking books, with their fucking scriptures as such. They ought to think that there's something wrong with all of this shit. Right? It's just like, maybe like the non-hypocritical Christian does the purity cult thing pretty damn good without any of this fucking, like, procedural bullshit. There's so much procedural bullshit in the Abrahamic core and in aspects of Islam. But this is just another level. And for what? It's just like, look at the rest of the human condition, right? It's like, you probably look at it and you say the odds of somebody being the best version of themselves for God is very unlikely to happen if it goes this way, but it's more likely to happen if you stick with our sect and you grow some curly cues on the side of your head. And then you will be on a guaranteed path to God, as opposed to this risky trial and error on your own thing. Don't be an individual. Come join the Essenes. Judea's doomed anyway. Come, Essene with us. Anyway. Upon the law's discretion, legends, the enumerations, such enjoyments as are permitted at Sabbath day festivals. In addition to the above, we would make the following citations from the text of the Talmud as a necessary feature of the introduction. We find the Tract Sabbath, 61b and 96b, the story of the mysterious scroll which Rab claimed to have found in the house of his uncle Arhaya. This scroll referred to the principal acts of labor prohibited on the Sabbath, which were 40 less 1. That would be, what you mean, 39? Reb discovered in the scroll the statement of Ar Isa B. Jehuda to the effect that although 39 principal acts of labor are enumerated, only one of them makes a man actually culpable. The Gemara then amends this statement and declares that it should read, one of the 39 does not involve culpability, but does not mention which one it is consequently. It remains doubtful which act it is that does not involve culpability, and where a doubt exists as to whether an act is prohibited or not, no punishment can be inflicted for its commission. From this, two things may be inferred. First, that these acts of labor were prohibited for political reasons, because the mystery was extant, and we find the term mystery applied to political cases only. And second, that Gemara declares in the same passage that the carrying of an object from public ground into private ground is not one of the doubtful acts, and a penalty is prescribed in the event of private ground is not one of the doubtful acts in an event of its being committed. Hence, the doubt was to prevent the assimilation explained above. All right. We find in Yebamoth 90b, R. Eliezer B. Jacob said, I have heard that a man was found riding a horse on Sabbath in the time of the Greeks, and being brought before the tribunal for the crime was stoned to death. This man was punished, not because his crime merited the penalty, but because the time made it necessary. Inference is therefore clearly established that the man was punished for political reasons, and that the violation of the Sabbath laws did not involve capital punishment. In Yoma 85b, it is written, R. Jonathan B. Joseph said, the Sabbath is holy unto you, implying that the Sabbath is handed over to you and not you to the Sabbath. R. Yohanan states elsewhere that in Palestine, where the Jews were together, no public ground existed. Michael L. Rodkinson, Cincinnati, March 1896. All right. So, 2.5 hours to get to volume 1 and starting to go over the Moed. Depending on what events may arise for me tomorrow, I'll probably jump right into that sometime in the day or the evening or whatever. I'm going to see if I want to get other things done. So this has been a introduction to the Babylonian Talmud, and I just wonder how much of this, is this why they make the Talmud? It's interesting to think about with all of that, and just thinking about the destabilization of Israel in their time, right? Because there was a lot, the sectarian violence really became like this crazy thing with the conflict between the different groups in the Jewish diaspora of its time in the Roman period, and the Romans themselves. So you had kind of like 3+ different parties of people all tearing at each other's throats. And, you know, how long is Israel today going to have the Likud party in charge? How long will Israel last as a nation when the next non-Zionist sits upon the Iron Throne? All right. Let me check the chat room real quick before I go, which I don't think anybody but Howard decided to participate. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Appreciate you all. Hope you enjoyed the new song. Go check out Zerilath Shreds channel, and you can track my my older songs, track my progress, and you'll see what I mean. The last 2 or 3 uploads are product of finally fixing most of my playing problems through chiropractors or chiropractic. Only one guy. It's been great. Okay. Have a great night.